Enter the beam within 30 seconds. Target locked, starting transportation to the Grudge 1. 5 people, no, it was 5 people and Arnold standing inside the beam. That same half-awake state, by the time they woke up, they were inside a very normal room. The floor was covered with tatame, rice straw mat, the rooms were divided by shoji, paper door. By the style and decorations of this room, this was a Japanese house. The 5 of them immediately counted the people on the floor. The result terrified them. There were 15 newbies, including the 5 of them would make the difficulty reach 20. The more people there were, the more difficult the movie was. In Alien, 15 people caused God to change the plot and almost wiped them out. And this time, the number of people reached the maximum allowed. G fell on the floor and mumbled, "The Grudge, it's the Grudge, and it's the Grudge with 20 people difficulty we are." Lan recovered from the shock and ran over to the window. This was a residential house. She was looking outside from the second floor, but if she were to look at the house from outside, this house was exactly the same as the one in the movie. Lan turned around with a pale face and said to Xian, "You're probably not experienced in this type of movies, let me analyze it this time." Xian nodded silently. Some newbies had started to wake up, but Lan didn't pay much attention to them. She began to explain the concept of a juon, curse. A juon is when a person filled with grudge dies, that grudge becomes a curse. This curse usually lingers at the place where the person lived. Once someone enters this place, this person will be killed by the curse. The cursed place in this movie is this house. Lan touched her forehead and continued. Once someone gets cursed in this movie, that person will definitely die. Perhaps after a few days, or a few weeks, the ghost will kill that person eventually. Zheng sighed. You're saying we have all been cursed? Once the movie starts, we can get killed anytime? Lan forced a smile. Yes, this is the type of movies that can't be explained with science. We don't have any means to analyze how the ghost kills, we don't even know how to avoid them, then what could our mission be? They looked at their watches at the same time. Their mission was to survive 7 days. There was also another option, someone killing the main body of Kayako once will be rewarded with a rank B reward and 5,000 points. A rank B reward and 5,000 points? Ji jumped up from the tatami and shouted excitedly. Shit, that's worth risking our lives. We just have to complete this one, then we can do whatever we want. That lightened up the stressful atmosphere. Zheng laughed. You really think it would be easy? Think how scary the queen was and everyone only got a rank D reward, and I got an extra 3,000 points. Kayako must be even scarier. The 5 of them fell into silence again. It had been 9 days since Zheng returned to God's world. He virtually hadn't spoken a word to Xian since then. He spent the time discussing combat techniques with G and Zero, and training to use guns and other survival skills. It wasn't until right before they were about to enter the third movie that Xian came up to him. He handed them each a cell phone-looking device. One each, they can communicate without getting interfered with by satellite signals. Maximum distance is 50 kilometers. I think this should be useful in a team. Xian also barely spoke with anyone since then. He spent his time making this device and a large amount of bullets. To everyone's curiosity, he spent the rest of his points on magical bullets. These bullets looked the same as normal ones but had rune words carved on the shells. Without rhyme or reason, the rest of them including Zheng also exchanged a large amount of magical bullets. This was the cheapest item that can damage spiritual monsters, and it could be used in any gun. Zheng stored a cubic meter of bullets in his ring. In contrast, he only got a few armor-piercing shells. The people without a NA ring exchanged tactical backpacks and stocked them with hemostasis sprays, bandage, antidotes, rations, solidified water in capsules, and a winter jacket. These things spent every point they had. Since some people had more points than others, Zheng had to fill the gaps with his points. Zheng sat on the tatami in silence as he watched Lan explain the rules to the newbies. He recalled the plot of this movie in his mind. The Grudge was a trilogy. He had actually watched this famous movie within the past few days. He could still recall the details vividly. The most unforgettable thing was no one survived the Juon. The plot started with Kayako loving a man in secret during college. Yet due to her unsociable personality, she could only stare at him from a distance and write her feelings down in diary. That man wasn't aware of Kayako and dated another woman at the same time. He married that woman shortly after, and it left Kayako with hatred. Then Kayako went through a series of unfortunate events. The cat that grew up with her died, both her parents died in a car accident. And at this time, her heart was filled with grudge. Kayako married another man shortly after and gave birth to a boy. She lived in peace for a few years until the boy was old enough to go to school. She found out that the boy's teacher was the man she had loved. At the same time her husband found out he suffered from male infertility, that it was difficult for him to have a child. He also discovered Kayako's diary and assumed that boy was the product of an affair. He became abusive and tortured and killed Kayako, then hid the body in the attic. He also killed the man Kayako loved afterward. Yet the fact was that child actually belonged to Kayako and her husband. The misunderstanding and torture from her husband drove her grudge to the limit. So this place became cursed. This was the plot he knew. Even though The Grudge was a trilogy, all 3 movies told the same thing, how Kayako killed anyone that entered this house. Kill Kayako. When her ghost appears, can we kill her with magical bullets? If it is possible, then wouldn't it be too easy when comparing the difficulty versus rewards? As Zheng was thinking, a bulky man with his face red shouted, I was doing business on the internet and clicked on a pop-up, how did I get here? F***CK, did you knock me out with anesthesia from behind and bring me to the room next door to blackmail me? Don't think this is creative, countless people have done it before. All the newbies aside from 3 people seemed rather normal, whether it was their clothing, expressions, or reactions. These 3 people started talking loudly and the red-faced man even started to go downstairs. 8 people followed him. Of the 3 people, a boy about 15 years old sat there reading a book quietly. A man was studying the tatami and shoji. A young woman was lying on the tatami. It looked like she wasn't even awake, dressed in sexy pajamas with her eyes out of focus. There were also 3 young men in their 20s that stayed. The reason was they had been staring at that sexy woman. Lan was about to stop people from leaving, but Zheng got a hold of her. Let them leave. This is the first spirit type movie we've encountered. We don't have the ability to help anybody. If they want to trust us and stay beside us, then we can protect them a bit, but if they want to leave, then let luck decide their fate. The man that was studying the tatami stopped and sighed. I am starting to believe your words. This is the layout of a Japanese residential house. The designs of tatami and shoji were also popular in Japan 10 years ago. The woman yawned. Japan. How did I get here? I remember I was chatting on the internet. Oh right, why are you in my house? She took a look around, realized the environment was different and screamed. A woman's voice came from downstairs when Zheng was about to speak. She was speaking in Japanese. This woman was probably one of the movie characters. The movie starts when they can interact with the characters. Suddenly a chill wind swept across everyone. Yet no one else except Zheng felt this coldness. His body trembled and he immediately took out the submachine gun coincidentally loaded with magical bullets and fired at the attic. Everyone looked at him in confusion, but Zheng could sense that coldness subside. They didn't realize an air of darkness stuck to their bodies even on Zheng's body. Is this the Juon? Screams followed the gunshot from both upstairs and downstairs. The newbies downstairs immediately ran out to the streets screaming. The 6 newbies upstairs froze in place. Then Xian stood up. I've seen the movie. The number of people doesn't help the probability of surviving. Even if you escape to another country, even if there are dozens of people guarding you, you will still get killed. I will leave this team, if we can live to see each other. Nada's cooking looked delicious. Xian and Arnold took their backpacks then went downstairs. Zheng watched as he left in silence. You can ask us if you have any questions. Lan, have you gotten the 100 points bonus? Lan nodded. She suddenly remembered when she first saw Zheng. This man changed so much in 2 movies, he had gotten the characteristics of a leader. Then we will leave this place. Zheng smiled bitterly. This place is not safe. Everyone agreed to the suggestion. The 3 young men rushed downstairs in panic. That woman followed them. Though the boy and the other man took the stairs calmly. G and Zero followed after. They could see that these 2 probably had some talent, or at least potential. After Xian left, they desperately needed someone with the wisdom. Even though Lan could fill the position, she was incomparable to Xian. Zheng checked the surroundings while holding the gun. Then he noticed Lan staring at him. What are you waiting for? Hurry, it'll cover the retreat. Lan blushed a little. You don't have to be so nervous. There's usually a pattern in this type of movie. We should be safe within 1 or 2 days. Those things usually attack us when we are not paying attention. Did you find out anything? If I tell you I can see no, I can sense those things, would you believe? I sense an air of darkness stuck to our bodies, including me. This is probably the mark of Juon. It will find us using this mark. Lan immediately started patting herself while screaming, is it clean? Is it clean? Which led Ji to run back. When she saw Ji, she stopped, pushed Ji away and went downstairs. Women are scary, huh? Yeah, really. All of them left the house as soon as possible. Zheng let out a sigh of relief once outside. That house stressed him so much he almost couldn't breathe. This sense of danger was way beyond anything he experienced in Alien. The worst part was he didn't even see the ghost. Zheng found the 6 newbies outside, the red-faced man and those who followed him were gone. Even Xian was gone. It is 10 a.m., so we will first find a place to discuss how to survive these 7 days. If there aren't any problems then. As Zheng put the gun back in the ring, he suddenly noticed everyone staring at the house behind him in shock. He could see the fear in their eyes. Zheng turned around unconsciously and he saw a woman in white leaning on the window on the 2nd floor staring at him with a pair of black eyes. Zheng couldn't fathom how he felt, as if coldness, death, horror, and grudge were hidden behind those eyes. When he recovered from the shock, he took out the gun once again and sprayed at the window. Yet, the bullets only shattered the glass. The woman was nowhere to be seen. G and Zero grabbed a hold of him and shouted, Zheng. Calm down, we are safe now. Hurry, otherwise the Japanese police will come. They dragged Zheng away. He felt feeble and couldn't even stand by himself. As the house was going out of sight, Zheng took one last look at it and that woman was there again. You calmed down yet? Zero handed him a can of coke and Zheng forced a smile. Thanks for that, it seems like I have become dead weight. They were sitting in a small park. Zero went away after he dragged Zheng here and brought back soda and packaged food. Even though the rations they exchanged didn't cost much, they wanted to save the rations until necessary. Zheng took a cold drink and felt much better. Lan said, are you alright? I've told them that you can sense the curse. You're the only one among us that can sense it, so we will have to depend on you. This feeling is too sensitive. If it continues, I will probably go crazy from the fright before the ghosts get me. The boy suddenly said in a cold voice, you are not calm enough. When you encounter unexplainable things, the first thing is not to panic but try to understand them. Even though you have such power, you're just a weakling. He said it without raising his head. His voice sounded like a girl, and his skin was even fairer than Lan's. But he had been reading the book this whole time, so no one got a clear look of his face. Zheng was surprised. Yeah, I am not calm enough. Then let's get to know each other. You have seen that thing back there, so you will believe us now, right? Even though it sounds unbelievable, we are in another world. I'll go first. My name is Zheng, the temporary leader of this team. This was the conclusion the 4 of them came up with. They couldn't agree with Xian during those 9 days, so even Zero joined their team. Though Zheng only thought of himself as a temporary leader since no one knew if they were going to die. Ji took out a pack of cigarettes and handed one to Zheng and Zero. My name is Zhang Ji, I can count as a gunner. Lan laughed. I am Zhan Lan, support, Not good in combat, but I can bandage and help analyze some situations. 0. Sniper. The three young men looked at each other. Lu Renjia, I'm still a college student. Xiao Binyi, unemployed. Kun Zhong Ding, senior college student. The woman yawned. Ming Yanwei, HR manager, but Japan huh? I've always wanted to travel around Japan. Didn't expect to fulfill this wish before I die. Of the two people left, the man that checked the house said, Chi Tenji, I'm an otaku, just kidding, I'm an appraiser for grave robbers. I wish to join your team. Zheng smiled, an appraiser would be someone they'd need. He could be useful in many movies. The boy put down his book, and when they took a look at his face, they realized she was a girl. She was about 15, and had a pair of eyes similar to Xian's. Zhao Yingkang, assassin, her voice was cold. She went back to her book. Zhen, Ji, and Lan turned to Zero. Zhen, you're the leader, so well have you explain our plans. Assassins are good, this team needs all kinds of talent. Zhen nodded, he was worried if there were any conflicts between Zero and Yingkang, but it seemed like they didn't know each other. Even assassins wouldn't necessarily know each other. I think we need Japanese yen the most. We have to live here for 7 days after all, unless you all want to stay in the streets. Zhen laughed and took out 2 gold bars from the ring. He handed them to Zero and said, luckily I exchanged these gold bars from God. Zero, you're probably more familiar with the underworld than us. Exchange these gold bars for Japanese yen, it should be enough for us. And buy a few copies of the local map, including hotel locations and any temples which are here. Oh, and can any of you speak Japanese? Yanwei and Tenji both said, I know a little. As Zhen was going to continue, Yingkang also said, I know Japanese. Why do you want the location of temples? Zheng smiled at her. Since there are curses in this world, why can't there be temples that can remove the curse? If logic from the real world doesn't apply here, then we will think using the logic of this world. She put down her book. You're quite interesting, even though you're a weakling with power, but you seem like a leader. Okay, I will join the team. As Zheng smiled at her, Lan suddenly said in a low voice, there's still a miner at home. Zheng coughed. Then this is decided. Zero, try to get some guns also, we have a lot of magical bullets. Try to arm everyone with a gun. Zero put the gold bars in his pocket and walked away. The weather was sunny, kids were playing, and old people rested in the park. It all looked so peaceful. But who could say with certainty? This was the world of a horror movie, especially one that couldn't be explained with science, a world with ghosts and curses. Zheng looked up to the sky, sunlight felt cold to him, then he remembered that woman in white who knew how many of them could go back this time. Zero came back to the park by evening. Nightfall was within 2 hours. Aside from having some snacks, they spent most of their time observing all sides nervously. Especially now that the sun was setting, they felt more and more anxious. Anyone that had seen The Grudge should know the ghosts in this movie weren't afraid of sunlight. They could hunt day and night. Yet everyone still hoped to stay under the lights. Such an odd mentality, even when they knew the ghosts weren't afraid of light, staying under the light gave them a little bit of courage. She ran up to Zero and patted his shoulder with a laugh. Shit, I thought you ran away with the gold. Haha, how did it go? How much money did you get? Zero smiled and took out 10 credit cards. He handed the golden one to Zheng. 100% pure gold. I got each of you a card after selling them. The passwords are all 123,456. There are. Zheng took the card and laughed. It doesn't matter. As long as there's enough to last us 7 days. Not like we will bring this money back to God's dimension. Haha. The 10 of them finally left this park. They took 3 taxis and headed toward the best 5-star hotel in the city. Even though Japan's cost of living was high, those gold bars were enough to let them live luxuriously for 7 days. The 3 women got in a taxi, the 3 college students got in one, and Zhen, Ji, Zero, and Tenji got in one. Inside the taxi, Zero took out a few copies of maps. City map with hotels, transportation, and sightseeing points of interests. Zhen took one and started studying with the other 2. Zero continued, I chose Sunlight Hotel. It is surrounded by open roads, very accessible. We can escape at any direction. Of course, if you are not okay with it. Zheng said, no, this type of hotel is suitable to our current situation. Complex surroundings can trap us when we get attacked. Were you able to buy guns? Zero nodded. No problem, but we need to pick them up tomorrow. Zheng, can magical bullets really damage those things? Did you damage it before? Zheng smiled bitterly. I don't know. I felt danger back then, that's why I lost control of myself. To be honest, I also felt a premonition of death, as if I was going to get killed any second. I'm really scared of dying. People that are afraid of dying tend to lose control easily when they feel death is coming. Is that so? You're also scared of dying, huh? The 4 of them fell into a silence. Before long, the taxis arrived at Sunlight Hotel. Zero was very dependable. Not only had he sold all the gold within half a day, he also got them fake IDs. Otherwise they wouldn't be able to live in the hotel even if they had the money. It was summer season in the movie, most of the rooms were already taken. The leftover rooms weren't in the same floor, so they had to settle on a presidential suite that could fit all of them. Yingkang immediately said, I don't want to live with anyone. Get me a single room, one with a computer. They looked at her in surprise. Zheng said, isn't it better to live together? That way we can help each other. She put down her book and replied coldly, I don't want to live with deadweight. I think what the person that left in the beginning said was correct. I have also watched all 3 movies of The Grudge. This curse isn't something you can defend with more people. Instead of getting dragged in when you get killed, it's easier to escape alone. Zheng sighed. He discussed with the others and to his surprise, the majority wanted to split up into groups and not stay together. This way they could help each other while not dragging the whole team in an encounter. Lan naturally grouped up with Yanwei. The 7 men were split into 2 groups randomly. Zheng, Tenji, and Renjia in a group, Ji, Zero, Binyi, and Ding in a group. These 4 rooms were all in different floors. Yingkong in 11th floor, Zheng in 12th, Ji in 14th, and Lan in 16th. The night passed peacefully. Everyone met up in Zheng's room at noon the next day with sleepy eyes. Aside from Zero and Yingkong, the rest of them couldn't fall asleep until it was past midnight. Good, seems like we are all doing fine. Today is the 2nd day, we just have to last until the 7th day. Then we can all go back alive. Zheng rubbed his puffed eyes. All doing fine? Maybe not. Yingkong put down her book and sneered. I hacked into the city's police network. There were 2 murders today just past midnight. The police found 2 bodies in a park not far away from us. In one of the bodies, all its internal organs were gone, its face was twisted. The other body was impaled through its stomach by a utility pole. Yet the rest of the pole was intact. All the police in the city were put into action, but they couldn't find the identities of these 2 people. According to the residents, they saw these 2 people with 7 others. Are you feeling surprised? Their faces suddenly turned pale, a few people even trembled violently. Death wasn't scary, yet dying in an unknown way wasn't something they could endure. Zheng took a deep breath and asked Zero, you get the guns yet? Zero took out 6 guns from a briefcase behind him and Zheng took out 600 magical bullets. Don't shoot normal people. I don't want to evade the police at the same time. Even though killing a team member costs 1,000 points, I don't mind tying you up and leaving you in a dark place. I think the ghosts like people that can't resist. The 3 college students got excited when they saw the guns, but Zheng's words shut them up immediately. Tenji took a bullet and studied it carefully. This seems to be made of regular silver? The rune words look like a combination of Oracle Bone script and cuneiform script perhaps. Oh right, I remember seeing similar rune words on some coffins. Zheng grabbed his hand and said, you saw these rune words on coffins. What do they mean? What do they do? These are magical bullets exchanged from God, even though they're the cheapest ones, they can damage spiritual beings. Tenji rubbed his head. I don't know what the rune words mean, I am just an appraiser, not a professional grave robber. But I heard some professionals say that these rune words can prevent a corpse from becoming a zombie, Chinese zombies. Of course, I always thought of those as superstitions. Zheng was rather disappointed, but he suddenly remembered something and took out a stack of Taoist paper charms. He said with excitement. I almost forgot about these. Come, one for each of you. These charms will start to burn when a ghost comes near. While it's burning, the ghost can't harm you. It should buy you enough time to run or yell for help. Ji and Lan also took out a few charms from their backpack excitedly. They exchanged these charms after Resident Evil, but since so many things had happened afterwards, that they had forgotten about the charms. Even though they put them in the backpack, if Zheng didn't mention it, they would have forgotten their existence. Under current situation when they couldn't know when the ghosts will come, this was the most useful item. Zheng laughed and patted Tenji on the shoulder. Thanks for reminding me. If the real world has rune words to counter spiritual beings, then why can't there be similar items in this world? Those temples shouldn't just be there for sightseeing. Haha, maybe we can even learn some spells. Doesn't God also have these type of enhancements for exchange? Good. We will visit those temples this afternoon to find hope to beat the Juon. The 10 of them discussed their plans after lunch. Aside from finding a way to eliminate the Juon from the temples, it was also important to keep an eye on the police network. Zero also wanted to find a suitable sniping spot. Yanwei wanted to go shopping and those 3 students volunteered to protect her. The situation was totally unexpected for Zheng. It seemed like no one placed any hope on the temples. As if the guns and magical bullets were enough to ward off the ghosts. Zheng was the only one who was aware of the horror. The Juon was way beyond anything they could imagine. Yet ignorance was a bliss. If it was an alien that was standing in front of them, they would probably feel scared. But these people had only seen the movies and they didn't have the sharp senses Zheng possessed. To be honest, the magical bullets didn't bring their life safety. Zheng couldn't help it, he couldn't just drag everyone to the temples. It was only his conjecture after all. Even though he didn't want to admit it, but if it was Xian in his place, what would he do in this situation? Zheng shook his head and shook away these thoughts. The bus had arrived at their 3rd temple. The 4 of them visited 2 temples already, and aside from the numerous visitors signifying the status of the temples, the abbots, priests, didn't know anything about curses. They recited some scriptures and gave the 4 incense ashes, but they couldn't sense the marks on their body. It was tourist season this time of the year. The 3rd temple was also filled with visitors. Zheng took a deep breath. Let's go and hope we can find what we want here. Is it 3 p.m. already? The other 3 people sighed. Even though they didn't have much hope from the start, the result was still disappointing. No matter what, they still had to continue. As they merged into the crowd and slowly climbed the mountain, Zheng suddenly shivered. He saw a pale little boy disappeared into the crowd. An indescribable sense of chillness swept through them. He felt as if a hand grabbed his left ankle. The charm in Zheng's pocket immediately flared up. The fire didn't burn him, instead it gave him a feeling of warmth. This warmth moved down his body to his left ankle and that cold hand retreated. It wasn't until then that Zheng recovered from the horror. His left leg had become numb. The other 3 saw Zheng pause for a moment then stumbled. Ji immediately got hold of him. What's wrong? You sprained your leg? To their surprise, Zheng took out the submachine gun and said to them in a serious tone. I was attacked just now. Hurry, get into the temple. The charm in my pocket is burning. Without another word, Ji and Tenji carried Zheng and sprinted toward the temple. Tenji was a large man and Ji's strength was just second to Zheng's. They forced their way through the crowd and finally reached the main gate, still outside the actual temple, before the charm burned out. Once inside, Zheng felt that a weight was lifted. That chill and stress disappeared. He stopped Ji and Tenji, then walked toward a sideway, away from the crowd. When they were alone, Zheng crouched down and lifted the bottom of his trousers. There was a gray handprint on his leg, the size of a child's hand. He also took out the charm from his pocket. It had already burned to ashes, yet his shirt was intact. It was really an attack. He smiled bitterly. You still remember the two ghosts in the garage? This was probably that little boy's ghost. He merely grabbed my leg and I couldn't move a bit. If the adult ghost is also like this, or even stronger, then the magical bullets won't be enough. We are dead if they get a hold of us. Ji and the other two turned pale. They stared at the ashes in silence. Lan touched her forehead and asked. Then why did you stop here? Hurry up and get inside the temple. Can't you feel it? Right, I am the only one that can feel it. Once we stepped beyond the gate, the chill and stress were gone. It seems like this temple is authentic. Maybe they have what we are looking for. I also suspect the ghost attacked us because they didn't want us to come in here. Ji cried with excitement. That's good, I never thought we could actually find something useful. Haha, let's go, hurry to the temple. The reason Zheng found a place to stop was really because his left leg felt numb. Since the others were excited to reach the temple, Ji and Tenji had to carry Zheng up. The biggest difference between this temple and the other two was a sense of old age. This temple felt like it had survived many centuries. Tenji observed the walls and doors, then said to them in a low voice. It's a style from the Tang dynasty, probably left by monks that visited Japan. This gave them a sense of safety. Monks from the ancient times were probably more skilled at handling ghosts. Even though modern-day people thought of them as superstitions, they chose to believe these superstition, at least while they were in this world. The four of them found the abbot of this temple. Unfortunately, this abbot was the same as the last two. He couldn't sense the mark of Juan on them and just recited some scriptures. They felt awful as the sun was moving down the horizon. Zheng suddenly asked, Master, did the first abbot of this temple come from the Tang dynasty? Tenji translated the words for him. The old abbot answered, this temple was built by the local residents when the disciple of Xianzang visited Japan. It was said this monk passed away inside the main hall. The Buddha in the main hall was modeled after the position that he died in. Then Master, where is his body? And was there anything strange about the main gate outside? The abbot shook his head and continued. That monk's body was burned by Oden Nobunaga during the Sengoku period. Nobunaga then ordered people to spray his ashes on the main gate so everyone that walks past will step on him. As the abbot sighed, they finally realized what happened. That monk's ashes could counter evil, but this also took away their last hope. The four of them also sighed, and when they were about to leave, the abbot handed them a few pieces of yellow paper. These are hand-copied scriptures by that monk. He said he would go back to the Tang dynasty once he finished preaching in Japan. Unfortunately, he died in this mountain. Since fate led you here, why don't you take these scriptures? Perhaps you can find a way to remove the curse in them. The generosity of the abbot gained their respect. Even though these pages were old and some corners were cracked, they were invaluable antiques. As Zheng took the scriptures, he felt a sense of warmth in his body. At the same time, the mark on his body faded. He almost couldn't feel it anymore. Had never felt so comfortable since he'd come to this movie. We can definitely survive, definitely. As the four returned to the hotel, the situation inside the suite shocked them before they had a chance to announce the good news. When they opened the door inside the same suite Zheng stayed in the night before, they heard the screams of two men. Don't come over. Gun, right, I have a gun. This was Renjia's voice. Don't drag me inside. I didn't see anything. Don't drag me in. This was Ding sobbing. All the lights were turned on, the TV was also on and at maximum volume. Fortunately, the room had good soundproofing and didn't attract any employees over. The two young men were sitting together in the center of the carpet. One of them pointed a gun at the door with a pair of trembling hands. Zheng and Ji sprinted toward him at the same time and grabbed the gun before he could fire it. It wasn't until now that the two young men realized who these four people were. Renjia grabbed Zheng's leg and started crying while Ding curled up on the floor. Zheng and the other three looked at each other. They had a bad feeling about this. Zheng helped Renjia stand up and asked. What happened? Where is Benji? And Yanwei? Why are you two the only ones here? What happened? No use asking them, they became retarded from the scare. Yanwei's voice came from the side. They turned around and saw her dressed in lingerie leaning on a bedroom door. She looked like she had makeup on. She laughed and said, these three idiots couldn't hold it when they were peeking at me trying on clothes, and went to the toilet. But there were gunshots shortly after and these two came back out from the toilet. Ha, and they said they were going to protect me. Men will always leave the women behind and run away from danger, no matter what that danger is. Haha. Her words seemed to indicate more than this, yet they didn't have the time to think. Lan took a look at Yanwei while the other three started asking the young men questions. Yet, aside from crying, they couldn't spit out a logical sentence. Then the door was opened once again. Yingkong walked in slowly with that book in her hand. Interesting ways of dying. There are new ways of dying on the police network. A young man was found inside the water pipes of a toilet in a mall. His whole body was squeezed inside a pipe just over 10 centimeters wide. They couldn't even make out that was a human when they took him out. I really want to see how it looks. She sat down on the sofa and said all that, ignoring the people in the room. When she got to the last line there was a bloodlust-filled smile on her face. They found 4 more bodies. One was separated into several hundred pieces, every piece was the size of a fingernail. It looked like a bomb exploded from inside his body, but they did not find any explosives on the flesh. 2 died from bloating. The forensic examiners found all their internal organs aside from their stomachs had disappeared. These organs went inside the stomach of the other person. And the last one. That's enough. Zheng lifted Yingkong and shouted. Why are you saying this in such details? You want us to lose our confidence and morale? You think a bunch of people that have given up can last through these 7 days? Her eyes became sharp and said in a cold tone, let go of me, I say what I like. Joining this team doesn't mean that I acknowledge you. To me, Zero is the only one qualified to be my teammate, you're all. Before Zheng could reply, he felt pain on his wrist and blood gushed out. Her little hand was as sharp as a knife. It easily sliced Zheng's wrist. She then stepped closer to him and her hand aimed at the artery on his neck. Zheng threw her upward and at the same time kicked on her belly. She got knocked away to the wall, but jumped right back at Zheng even faster with her hand aiming at his heart. This feeling. Zheng had taken out the progressive knife by this time. He went into the unlocked state. The sense of danger let him know that the girl in front of him was in the same unlocked state. As his knife and her hand were about to hit each other, they both jumped back. Their senses toward danger were extremely sensitive during this state, and instantly a bullet passed between them. When they looked toward the door, Zero was standing there holding a gun on his hand. Yingkong exited from the unlocked state. She picked up the book she dropped and returned to the sofa, then said emotionlessly, including you, I acknowledge 2 people in this team. Zheng didn't exit the state and replied coldly, these same F***ing words, who do you think you are? Why does everyone in this team need your acknowledgement? One Xian was enough, I don't want to see people backstabbing teammates. Either you leave or treat everyone sincerely. If you think your power lets you stand above everyone else, I will kill you now. The submachine gun appeared in his left hand. I am serious, don't assume I am joking. She said without raising her head, no problem, you're the leader. If I am not satisfied with your performance, I will challenge and kill you. Before that happens, your words are orders. Continuing the previous topic, there was one more person who died. In other words, 5 people died today. 1 from our group and 4 from theirs. Zheng finally exited his unlocked state. He sat down beside Ji, and Zero also came over to him. With these 2 people guarding him, he said, so they only have 3 newbies left and Xian? Yingkong didn't reply but Lan laughed. With this speed, we have no chance of lasting through 7 days. Should we get in touch with Xian? No. Zheng gritted his teeth. His body started trembling, this was the after effect of unlocking the genetic constraint. He had to experience this immense pain every time. It took almost a minute for him to calm down. As to Yingkong, she didn't exhibit anything unusual aside from a bit of sweat. Zheng wiped away the sweat on his head. If he wants to get in touch with us he will do it. If he sincerely wants to get back into the team, as long as he gets rid of those thoughts, we will. The newbies, who weren't familiar with Xian, were indifferent toward his words, but Ji and the other veterans sighed. Then Tenji started to explain the background of the scriptures excitedly. Zero and Yingkong were surprised to see the scriptures. They never expected the temples to be of any help. At first they were still suspicious. It wasn't until after touching the scripture and experiencing the warmth that they believed in it. Tenji was talking non-stop. He looked the lively type of person. You didn't see it? We were attacked by the little boy's ghost, but once we stepped inside the main gate, the ghost went away. Haha. It seems like we can definitely survive these 7 days with the scriptures. After a discussion, they decided to guard the scriptures in groups of 3s while the other 6 people take naps in turns. The 3 girls formed a team and the other 2 groups were decided randomly. Zheng, Ji, and Zero formed a team, Tenji and the 2 college students in the remaining team. Each group would guard the scriptures for 3 hours every night from now on. Even though Yingkong disliked this arrangement, she followed her words from before and accepted living in the suite with the other 2 girls. Everything seemed perfect, but they didn't notice the 2 college students who looked each other in the eye, nor Yanwei who stared at them with a smile. The first group to guard the scriptures was Zheng's. They sat there in silence. Ji took out a pack of cigarettes and said, feeling irritated. Why did you get so mad over a little girl? Zheng took a cigarette and forced a smile. It's not really irritated as much as I just don't want to see another Xian in this team. The type of emotionless nature that can give up on a comrade anytime. I don't want to see another one. After he mentioned Xian, all 3 of them fell into a silence again, as if his name was a taboo. Zero diverged the topic. How did you get injured? Did she have a knife in her hand? Ji also seemed interested in this question. Even though the fight was short, the artery on Zheng's wrist was cut open. His enhanced body and vampire bloodline quickly healed the wound, but one could still see a trace of it. Zheng held up his wrist. Can you believe it? She cut through my skin with just her fingernails, even steel can't cut through it that easily. How can a 16-year-old girl's fingernails be tougher than steel? Zero's expression changed. He looked at the wound carefully then said, with just nails? Could she come from the clan of assassins? Clan of assassins? Zheng and Ji asked curiously. Assassins have existed since the ancient times, whether it was in Asia or Europe. The earliest assassins had superior skills and hearts cold as ice. They could kill normal people easily barehanded. These assassins also mastered a cruel training technique to stimulate human potentials, but as technology advanced and guns appeared, these type of assassins declined. The new type of assassin is adept in using guns. No matter how good your skills are, one little bullet from afar will kill you. So true assassins have almost disappeared. I have only heard rumors of it, that there still exist 2 clans of assassins in this world. One in Asia and one in Europe. They still have that training technique handed down from the past. If this little girl's nails are really so strong, I think she may have come from one of the clans, and probably belongs to the inner circle of the clan. Zheng recalled when she unlocked her genetic constraint. If it was a cruel training technique, then fear and death could lead her to unlock the constraint. Also the way that she handled the pain afterward looked like she was already used to this pain. Perhaps she really was from one of the clans. No wonder she was so arrogant. If she can get along with us peacefully, she will become a comrade we can depend upon. At the same time in the girls' room, Lan and Yanwei stared at Yingkong in shock. The blood on Yingkong's clothes had dried, but as she was getting on the only bed in this room without changing clothes, Lan and Yanwei annoyed her until she took them off. Even though Yingkong was mean to the men, she was actually gentle and well-mannered when she interacted with the 2 women. After she took off her shirt, she exposed a pair of breasts wrapped around by a piece of cloth very tightly. A pair of breasts tied with strips of cloth abruptly became visible where a masculine chest was previously seen. The two women couldn't help but unravel the cloth on her chest with their hands, and a little while later a plump pair of white rabbits suddenly jumped out. The plump rabbits looked so beautiful. Both perky and pretty with no signs of sagging. Seemingly made of flawless white jade, prompting smoke to rise from both Lan and Yanwei. Yingkong hurried onto the bed and covered herself with a blanket while the other two women laughed. Why do you have to wrap them up? It will cause them to deform and you're more prone to breast cancer. Why don't we take you to buy a pair of bras tomorrow? Yingkong blushed and said, they will get in the way if I don't wrap them up. Others will also make fun of me and touch them intentionally. Mine are too big. If I don't wrap them up, they will just grow larger. Yanwei got close to Yingkong and said, hee, let me tell you. They will just get larger the more you wrap them up. Choosing the right bras can stop them from growing. Really? Lan and Yanwei nodded. Yanwei stroked her hair and said, who are these others that you mentioned? You're so strong, why don't you kill them all? Men cannot be trusted, all men are disgusting beings. Lan was going to say something but she sighed. Yanwei, did something happen before you come here that left you in despair? Can you tell us? She paused for a moment then laughed miserably. Nothing special. My boyfriend and I drove outside the city and the car broke down. Then a bunch of thugs surrounded us. He ran away alone. Aren't all men like this? Once they're in danger, they'll think about themselves first. Lan sighed again. She recalled the last movie when Zheng was fighting like a madman. Not all men were like this. When it was time for the second group, Zheng prepared a can of iced coffee for each of them. The two college students sat there discussing something in a low voice, while Tenji studied the scriptures excitedly. Pa! Tenji felt pain on the back of his head then fell forward. Two hands on the left and right got a hold of him. Ding put down the blood-stained ashtray lightly. He and Renjia grabbed the scriptures with crazy yet relieved expressions. These idiots. They never saw how terrifying those things are. They think it's safe to just put the scriptures in the living room. They can all go die. Ding and Renjia laughed in a low voice. Will you take me along? This voice scared the two men. Renjia pointed his gun at the origin of the voice. Yanwei was leaning on the wall in her sexy lingerie. She laughed and walked over to them slowly. I don't want to die, can you take me along? I will have to depend on you from now on. Zheng was sleeping soundly. After he got a hold of the scriptures, that chill and stress never came back. He felt relieved when he laid down. But somehow he was feeling colder and colder in his dream, as if something was reaching toward his head from the bedside. When that thing almost touched his head, a series of rapid knocks on the door woke him and the other two up. Zheng immediately woke up with a shock. He caught a glimpse of a white arm disappearing from the bedside. He immediately jumped up then heard Lan's voice from outside the room, Zheng. Come out. Those two college students stole the scriptures. They hurried to the living room and saw Tenji sitting on the ground with a pale face. By the blood on his head and the disappearance of Renjia, Ding, and the scriptures, it was obvious what had happened. Lan said hastily, after we fell asleep, Yanwei apparently said that she wanted to use the bathroom. Then sometime later the alarm on her phone rang. There was the word danger on it. We ran out to take a look and found the situation. Zheng touched the canned coffee then said with a livid face, stay calm, they couldn't have gotten too far. Probably just got out of the hotel. We should be able to catch them. Zero, is your sniper rifle still in the backpack? Zero was surprised by the question. Yes. I put it in the backpack disassembled, but due to the high cost of gauze bullets and magical gauze bullets, I only exchanged 5 of each. You mean? It takes less than a minute to get to the roof, much faster than we can go downstairs. Get up there and find them then contact us then shoot their legs. I will take their hands myself. After a quick discussion, Zero and Lan went upstairs. Zero was responsible for the sniping while Lan guarded his back. Lan also had a small submachine gun. As for Tenji, he still hadn't recovered from the concussion, so he had to stay in the room. Zheng, Ji, and Yingkong took the elevators down. Found them. At the entrance to YL Street. They're withdrawing money at the ATM. Ding is holding the scriptures. Go left from where you are, you should catch up to them within 30 seconds. I will shoot after 20 seconds. Zheng, hurry, we need to take back the scriptures before the police arrive. Okay. The three of them ran to the left. Zheng asked Yingkong on the way. Is there any way prevent them from telling the police our location? She was surprised for a bit. Just kill them. Killing takes off points. Any other way? You assassins surely have some methods, right? That's simple, cut off their limbs and tongues, gouge out their eyes. If you want something even simpler, pierce a needle into their spine and they will go into a vegetative state. You need my help? No. I will bear my own responsibility. The ATM was in sight by this time and beside it was Renjia and the other two. Renjia was withdrawing money while Ding was looking at him. Only Yanwei saw Zheng coming their way, then she smiled at them. With a loud bang, Ding's left leg disappeared. The huge impact totally crushed his leg. The bullet even shot into the concrete ground and blasted a hole the size of a bowl. The gunshot shocked them for a bit then Renjia immediately turned around and grabbed Yanwei as a shield. He pointed his gun on her head. Ding was screaming on the ground. Renjia saw Zheng running over and shouted, don't come over. Otherwise I will kill her and the scriptures, Ding. If they take another step, tear up the scriptures. Zheng immediately stopped. They were less than 50 meters away from Renjia now. I don't want to say anything else. Put down the scriptures and I will let you leave safely. Ding yelled as he held onto the broken leg. Leave your ass. Do you know how scary that thing is? We may as well just kill ourselves if we don't have the scriptures. F***CK, why do you have to chase us? Why don't you let us take the scriptures? You're strong, why don't you give them to the weaker ones? Leaving them in the living room to help everyone? You veterans just want to monopolize them. Zheng was filled with hatred. It was the first time he saw such ugliness in people. Even though this happened frequently in books and movies, but when it happened right in front of his eyes, the shock was indescribable. Am I really wrong? Another gunshot as Ding was talking. The arm that was holding the scriptures fell to the ground. Zheng and Yingkong sprinted at them immediately. Yet Ding had his mind set. He knew Zero was sniping him at distance. He remembered their introduction. And without hesitation he grabbed the scriptures and threw them to the streets. Right after he threw them, his other arm was shot. The scriptures landed on the street and a car drove on top of them, crushing them into pieces, then blew away by the wind. No. Zheng was totally enraged. He raised the knife and swung at Ding. Ding's head flew off to the distance, then it was crushed by a car driving by. Killed a team member. Deducted 1,000 points. God's voice rang inside Zheng's head, but he didn't pay any attention to what God said. He walked over to Renjia with a pair of red eyes. Renjia was so scared he couldn't even move. Yellow liquid leaked out of his trousers. When he saw Zheng looking his way, his body was trembling. Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't you lose 1,000 points for killing. Don't kill me. Another loud bang. Renjia's hand was trembling also, and the gun he was holding went off. It blew away half of Yanwei's head. Everyone watched in shock as this woman fell to the ground. A few seconds later Renjia started laughing crazily. Before Zheng could do anything, Yingkong ran up to him and with a swing of her hand, Renjia's arm fell off, then it was the other arm and both legs. She didn't even blink as the blood sprayed her whole body. Afterward she did everything she had told Zheng before walking back. Zheng used the hemostasis spray on Renjia, then took out the communication device. Zero, if there are any security cameras please shoot them out. Also find a place that we can hide. We will come back after the police leave. Understood. Go straight 500 meters. There's a manhole cover leading to the sewers. Then run right in the sewers, on top of the 12th manhole should be a park. We will come back in the afternoon. Remember to change the blood-stained clothes. Zero, thank you, I will apologize when we get back together. Was I really wrong? The three of them reached the park. It was past midnight and the area was totally black. They had to stand together with their backs to each other so they could each guard a side. In between them were a few charms. Was I really wrong? Is the right way to use newbies as bait and not to trust them in the beginning? As his head was in a chaos, the communication device vibrated. Zero. What's wrong? It's me. This voice was Xian. I've seen what happened and can probably guess how you're feeling. Then do you want to talk to me? Zheng took a deep breath. How do you know what happened? And where were you hiding these few days? It isn't important where you hide. The Juan won't let you off because of distance. I also went to the temple you visited. Unfortunately the main gate doesn't have its ability at night. In fact, the scriptures you were holding onto were probably a critical item to surviving this movie. Is it because you can listen through the communication device? Correct. I have the main device so I can listen through all the connected devices, even if you don't turn them on. Zheng looked at the device then laughed bitterly. Are you here to laugh at me? Yes, I admit I failed. I was wrong to trust anyone as a comrade then get backstabbed by the same people. Xian, did you predict this would happen? Was that why you left this insecure team? No, I just wanted to find a quiet place and look at the stars. On top of a roof not far away from the Sunlight Hotel. Xian looked at the sky as he sat on the edge. He continued calmly, there's no absolute right or wrong. You think too much comrades are important, but as a leader you can't put yourself on even grounds with them. With power comes responsibility. You're responsible for the safety of all team members. You're still lacking on when you should give up and when you should persist. The only thing you did wrong was treating everyone equally. This world needs choices. The paths we take, the newbies that God chooses, or the survivors that the movies choose. You have to know who can become your comrade. It's not the people who can't adapt to this world. If you choose them, they will drag you along when this world eliminates them. Life is a long path, you will learn and grow up gradually. I am jealous of you guys. You will correct yourselves when you know it's wrong and not have all the knowledge in the beginning. Zheng, you will grow up, and remember to put yourself in the position of a leader, not complain like a team member. It's also important to choose your comrades. Those without talents, those that may betray, those with an ugly heart, you can't save those people. Remember, you are not a savior. You are not alive to save them. You need their strength so you can live. Don't mess up the order. Zheng listened quietly to every word Xian said. He gradually calmed down. Why are you saying this to me? This doesn't fit your personality, helping someone without any gain. Xian, are you listening? Yeah, I'm listening. Xian laughed. It's not totally unrelated, I owe you a favor. Remember the data I made you bring back to the real world? Thank you, Ha, it's actually not that difficult to thank someone. Zheng was silent for a bit. Do you really love my country? I think you're mistaken. In actuality, once we entered this world, we no longer belong to that other world. Patriotism is rather fake here. It's because I can finally rest, so tired. Xian paused, then laughed again. It seems like my time has come. If we can see each other again, I hope you can grow up to become a real leader. Remember, nothing is absolutely right or wrong. What you want is merely living on, right? So crush all the obstacles preventing you from living. I'll give you a hint. Since God can be thought of as a program, then aside from the scriptures, maybe the number 7 is also a hint. 7. This was the last line Zheng heard. Then he heard creepy noises through the device. The kakaka-like noise in the movie. 7 days, maybe the 7 hints at the number of times you have to kill the Juan's main body. It's cut off already. Xian turned around. Not far away from him was a woman in white hanging on the wall. The kakaka sounds were coming from her mouth.